Thank you for inviting me, reaching out and inviting me to share here on your podcast and your audience. My name is Yancey, like I say, Yancey Mbolda. I'm actually originally from Cameroon, in a place in Central Africa. For people who don't know, actually right next to on the east of Nigeria. Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Hello and welcome to Obehi podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with today's episode.
I grew up in actually the north side of Cameroon and moved here to the state. I'm here in the United States, moved here to the state back in 2007. Just like a lot of us from there, once you graduate from high school, I actually went to a technical college there for 2 years before I actually came here. I came here to, just like most people, to go to school. That was the first thing I did. And my background, what I studied in school, was actually engineering. So I did that, graduated with a bachelor there, and start my career in the engineering field. But several years after that, a friend of mine, one day, we're just having a conversation and just shared with me about an organization that educated people on personal finance. And I was really intrigued by it because one thing I knew, especially being an immigrant and being in a place where I'm really not familiar with, right? I came here to go to school, but then I end up getting a starting career here. So I wanted to make sure I understand how the financial system works here. Because in Cameroon, it's very basic, right? At least when I lived there, it's a cash-based system, you know. Hey, you have money, you buy stuff, don't have money, hey, you just go home, drink some water, and then
you go sleep.
So it's very straightforward. It's not that complicated to understand. But here, even though I had an education here, what I found out is I was so clueless when it came to personal finance. But the one thing I love was the fact that I at least got a chance to connect with an organization that can teach me, right? Because I was always willing to learn. I knew, hey, if I don't know it, I need to learn. So I did that learn. And what really intrigued me as I was going through that process was that I started realizing that even the people around me was in the same situation. I wasn't the only one, which somehow kind of made me feel a little bit good about myself because okay, I'm not the only ignorant. But it actually opened my eyes to why, even though we here in the United States, we come here for a better life, and we're able to. Some of us are blessed enough to be able to even get a career here. However, somehow we are still, over time, we find out we're still struggling. Right? Not because we don't have none, but really, I realized it was just a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge. Just like in any area, you realize if you don't know, what you don't know can hurt you. So that's really what opened my eyes when it came to personal finance in general. And over time, as I started learning even more and more, and really I was so curious about it that I decided, you know what, I want to be able to not just learn, and apply, but be able to also help other people. Because the organization I partnered with actually had a financial literacy campaign. So they wanted to make sure everybody have access to basic understanding of personal finance. And I love that mission. I really love that. So I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be able to be part of something, like I said, bigger than myself. So that's how I embarked into it. And over the years, I actually transitioned from my previous career to basically being here and be part of this organization. So that's a little bit about it, an intro, if I can, just like a short version of it.
Thank you very much. No, that is very interesting. At least you've given a very broad background of what you do and also the importance of it and how you serve. I think, of course, at the end of the day, it gives me also the time to be able to know how to engage with it at the end of the day. So in which part of the United States do you stay? And tell me about the community where you live in. So that might give me a little background of who I would go to be having the kind of in the contest here.
Good. Actually, when I moved here, at first I went to school in Louisiana, in kind of south United States. I went to school there, but currently I reside in Texas. I'm in a city called Beaumont, Texas, so kind of south of Louisiana. So that's where I am. When you hear on TV about hurricane and so on and so forth, most of the time it happens here. This is kind of the region where I am. I live, but before I moved here in Texas, I used to live in northern Nevada for a couple of years. So my first job actually out of college was there. I lived there for about 2.5 years before I moved to Texas. But I've been here since 2014. So this is kind of where I live. It's a small city. The city I live is not a big city, which I kind of like. There's not as much traffic going around. You can kind of go to a place easily. So I like that about it.
Do you have okay, I'm asking this question because I'm trying to understand also from the point of view of your client now. If you What is the situation of the African diaspora in those areas?
Yeah, good. That's actually a very good question. I mean, where I live, I'm about an hour and a half away from Houston, which is a city a lot of people are familiar with. And there's a huge diaspora there. I mean, people from Cameroon, from Nigeria, Ivory Coast. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of African in general there in Houston. Where I live, there's not, I mean, there are some, because we even have an association here of African here. So there's a small community here, but not as big as in some of the big cities, like I said, like for example, Houston or Dallas. Those are places where they have a huge community, huge diaspora there. So also, a lot of them are professional. So you see a lot of, for example, here where I live, a lot of engineers in the medical field. You have doctors, pharmacists, nurses, process operators. So there's a lot actually professional in this area.
And also maybe people that are coming from Africa. I mean, of the current generation, like yourself, that are maybe I don't know, 2 or 3 generations away, something like that.
Yes, actually, this is actually interesting. There's a mix. I remember when I first started meeting some of the people at the diaspora here, I was actually shocked when some of them told me they've been in this place since, I believe, in the mid-90s. I was actually shocked. I was like, wow, how do you learn about a place like this? I mean, that far ago. Because usually when people move here, they move to the kind of the big city, the city here on TV, right? You move to the Houston or California or New York, so big city. But some people I met here, a lot of them are actually, older, maybe 50s or 60s, but you also have younger generation like myself. So some of the professionals here also are around my age range. So you see that as well here. So some of those first people who moved here was back in the mid-90s, but they start having family and so on and so forth. So now they have the kids who are going to college. Some of the kids are already working and so on and so forth. So you see it's a mix in terms of generation here.
May I ask why destination America? If there was anything particular that led you there, or
that's a good question. So when I graduated from high school, like I mentioned, I went to a technical college there back home, and once it was a two-year institution. So once I actually finished there, I was kind of a place where, okay, what do I do next? So at first, talking to my parents, they're like, oh, you know what? They wanted me first. Originally, they wanted me to actually go to Germany because at the time we had some family there or friends of family who lived there. So I was like, okay. So I started actually even studying there because you had to go to study the language, and there's an exam you even have to pass before you can even start applying for a university. So I actually went through that process. But then towards the end, there was a change in mind. My mom was like, oh, okay, you know what? Because my younger brother was already here in the US at the time, Louisiana at the time. And then so mom was like, hey, you know what? I think it's probably better you go there and stay with your brother. So it's not just him there by himself and you by yourself one place. So both of you guys can be in the same place. So that's kind of how things change halfway through it. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess now I'm coming here. And also, like I said, I had a younger brother here, and I also had another good friend of family. Someone knew my mom as they kind of grew up and worked together. His family was also here in Louisiana at the time, so she was like, "Okay, might be easier for me to come here." So that's basically what had to happen. So after that, it was just a matter of going through the process of finding school, writing an exam, because in the exam we have to write, because personally, I speak, I mean, my first language is French. That's actually what I speak. So I had to write this exam called the TOEFL, did that, and then went through the process of coming to school here. So that's actually how it happened for me. So it wasn't so much that I picked the place, was, parents just say, hey, that's where you're going. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm coming here.
So how was the movement for you? I mean, was it simple? Was it so complicated? Is this something that you particularly enjoy the process? Or okay, now I see that you are comfortable there, but
Yeah.
at least I'm looking at the process of you coming in and getting settled, and yeah.
So one thing that actually helped, because I already had, family here, that was good. I just had someone I can communicate with. But just like anything new, it was an adjustment period. I never forget my first, because literally I came here and the next day I had to go to the university on campus for orientation, and then the following day I had to start school. Right? So when my first class in university was a theater class, because they call it here elective, right? So it wasn't really part of my major, but some classes you have to take. I remember walking to, was a huge auditorium, so I went and sat there, and the professor walked in. It was an hour class. The professor started talking. I mean, the whole time, and by the time it was done, I was just like, I couldn't understand. I didn't understand anything of what he was saying. I mean, I had no clue. I was like, this is not good. I don't know how I'm going to make it here. So I remember actually even calling my brother. I was like, man, how do you drop class? Because just this class, I'm not going to make it. I just left here. I couldn't understand anything that the professor was saying. So I actually switched that class took another one. But so that was kind of the experience. And even working on campus, I really, even though I could read English okay, I really couldn't, I definitely couldn't speak as well. I really couldn't understand, because people, to me at least, they were talking way too fast. So I had to get used to that. But one thing that actually helped me was, like I said, I could read a little bit, and most of the class I took, because I remember taking the first semester, I took like a math class, the elective, and an English class. So I didn't have as many courses. So I was able to kind of get used to the place and the environment. But what also helped me was because I was here, I believe after like maybe that first semester, I really got a lot more comfortable. I can really start understanding people better. And I mean, and that actually helped me. I actually like the fact that as soon as I came here, I was immersed in that environment as soon as possible, because I really started picking things up pretty fast. But it was definitely the beginning was and also I came here in January, so during the winter as well. So that was another adjustment, the weather, right? Because the place I grew up was very, very hot, very dry. So that was another adjustment to the cold, and having to wear sweater, all of that. So that was also an adjustment for me. But over time, you get used to.
Yeah. That's true. You get used to it. We are social animal at the point. If you see people that are doing certain thing, you continue to do it for a number of time. At the point, you also get used to it, because okay, they are human beings, so you don't have any other option, huh?
I didn't. That's the other thing. I didn't have a choice. It's not like I had I had a plan somewhere. So it was either make it work or make it work. So
That's interesting. All right, now, yes, when you were explaining before, you made mention of financial literacy. Okay, actually, this is where we are going to be spending most of our time today, because that is what you do. So I want to believe that a lot of people don't even understand what you're talking about by financial literacy. Can you give us a little background of what it even mean?
yes, absolutely. So financial literacy is basically another way you call it is financial education, and what it means is having an understanding of personal finance. And I can give you an example. Like I shared earlier, the friend that actually introduced me to this organization, we went to college together, and she studied finance in college. However, what she learned in college, which what most people learn in finance, you would study finance in college, they learn business finance, right? How to run finance for a company, for a business. That's actually what they learn. So what they don't learn about personal finance, how to run your own finance for a household or personally. So they understand how to balance sheets for corporation, how taxation. So they understand all of that accounting for business. But really, personal finance is really about how do you manage your own money, right? How do you understand how money works? How does you actually build wealth? How does a different investment vehicle works? Right? What's the difference between every single one of them? So those are the things we learn, and that's really what financial literacy is all about. And the unfortunate part really is that's not something we learn in school, right? It's not something you even learn at a job. It's not something you go to work and someone will teach you there. It's something you either have to learn from someone who knows it, or unfortunately, which I had to go to that myself, you learn it to make a mistake, right? Make a mistake, realize, oh, oops, this didn't work. Let me try something different. So that's usually, unfortunately, how most people learn when it comes to the personal finance. They will just do stuff, try something. Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, they try something different, and so on and so forth.
Now, you were also saying before that compared to maybe Cameroon or the African setting where you are coming from, the setup is completely different now because you have the cash in your hand, so you do what you have to do. But now, where you are, you see the way that the setting is completely different. So, can you like give us this little difference in the background?
Yes, absolutely. For example, like I said, when I grew up, the house I grew up in, it was a house that was my parents actually built. Right. So at first, let me start. So grew up actually two different houses. So the first house we lived in was a house that was my dad actually job was paid for it. But while we're living there, my dad was building his own house. Right? Just like that's how most people did. They take the time and build a house. And once the house was built and everything, we moved there. Right? So it was built cash. So when you have extra money, you pay. And what you notice is usually back home, it takes a lot of time to build a home. It's not something you do in 2-3 months. It takes sometimes takes a few years to actually build. So you do it as a kind of a process. And if you see someone who drive a car, you know they actually bought that car cash, right? They saved the money up and bought it, right? So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. Hey, if you had money, yes, you can buy something. If you don't have money, hey, you just wait until you save up until you have the money to buy something. Now, when you move here to the US, one thing that first amazed me, I remember when I was going on campus, I was seeing this college student, everybody was driving car. I'm like, what? How is this? How is people able to afford cars? I mean, some of them like brand new cars. You're like, okay, wow, this is. But over time I learned that there's such thing called credit, right? Such thing called credit card, such thing called loan. That hey, you can go and take a loan and buy something. You can go and finance. You can basically finance your way. You can finance a car. You can finance a home. You can finance the furniture. You can finance your food. I mean, everything can be financed if you have a good credit. If you have a credit card, or you have good enough credit, you can basically afford most of the things. You can finance most of the things that you have. You don't own any of those stuff, but you can finance them. So that was completely different environment, because that's also what create a lot of people issues, is because you don't understand that, oh yes, I'm paying this, I'm taking this money up front, but I have to not only pay back, but I have to pay back with interest. How much interest am I paying? Am I going to be able to afford to make my payment? If I miss a payment, what happened? So those are all the things people sometimes don't even think about before they make those decisions, because it's like, hey, yes, I can, you go to, I always find things interesting. You go to the mail, you see, a bank sends you a mail like, oh, you're pre-approved for this credit card. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't have to do anything. Here's, at least $5,000 I can just spend. I can just call a number, I get approved, and I just go and start spending that money, right? Even though it's not yours, right? And I'll pay back. Oh yeah, pay back later. First year, 0% for a first year. So you think, man, this is free money, but that's how you can easily find yourself in a really bad situation. So to me, that was one of the big difference between the two places where I grew up and here. And really, and again, nobody really teaches you, hey, this is what you need to be aware of. This is what you need to be careful for. It's just kind of a jungle. You have to find your way through it, basically.
Mm-hmm. And that is sort of interesting, because now, like a little goat, you are given a little cube of sugar, and you find that it's sweet. Then you ask for it, until you know that now you are trapped.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe you don't even have any exit from it.
Yeah.
If you don't have any preparation, that can be really very dangerous.
Yeah.
But who can say that taking sugar is bad? You know, it's good in itself, right?
Yeah. And I remember I don't know if it was my first or my second semester. I was on campus. Was on a Friday. So usually that first week of school, that Friday, the school would start at 12, and then they had like a tailgating on campus, and they have different vendor coming in. So there was one good I was going there with a friend of mine, and they were offering like a free pizza. I was like, hey man, free pizza, why not? Let me go and let me go and get free pizza. But there's a paperwork you had to sign, like you had to fill out. Oh, so fill out this paperwork and then you get a free pizza. So I went there with my friend and tried to fill out the paper, and my friend kind of filled out, but he realized that, because I remember one of the questions they asked him was a social, and I remember he didn't actually put his right social, and they were able to realize, oh, this is not actually a social number. But we didn't get the pizza. But what I found out later on is what that was. People were filling out was an application for a credit card. So that's how some of those companies, they just go on campus. Man, you have an 18-year-old just graduated, I mean, doesn't know what, hey man, free pizza. Just people just fill out everything, and then just get a free pizza and go. And then a few days, maybe a few weeks later, you get a credit card sent to your mail. You wonder, okay, where this came from? But you don't know that was what you're applying for, what you got that free pizza. And that's how usually a lot of people, that's how the process starts for them.
And then after you are trapped now, before you start trying to understand what is going on, but anyway, but in itself, in a sense, it's actually very important, because if you have a good project, say maybe for example you are in business and you need money, you can easily access money. Of course, if you have a good credit record, I want to believe, no. So anyway, so the first question I'm going to ask you in this area now would be, how do you even build up your credit record? Because I want to believe that before the bank start giving you money, they want to see that you have a kind of a good score on your record in terms of credit, no? So tell me about that. How do you build up your credit record?
That is that is actually a little bit of a mystery to me, because again, where I come from, there was no such thing as credit, right? I mean, you have quote unquote good credit. It's different. It's interesting because here, just using myself for example, the first thing I actually ended up financing was when I graduated from school, I got my first job. I purchased a car. That was actually the first time I had to finance anything. And that was back in 2011. And I remember going through the process. They said they need to check my credit. I was like, oh, okay. And somehow my credit was actually okay, but I've never realized how I even built that, like just like you said. Because I remember when the bank I was banking with, I had a checking account there, and then because my brother was here before me, so he kind of helped me. So I ended up applying for a credit card. I think it was a $500 limit, and I was even so scared to use that to begin with, because at that point I knew a little bit about what the give and takes there was, but you needed to have that. So that's how you really build credit, by borrowing money, essentially. That's how you. I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but that's how it works. So you borrow money and you pay. If you make your payment on time, that's how you build credit. So essentially, you have to be in debt to be able to build some credit. I mean, you think there should be another way, but that's essentially how that works, right? And if you're able to do that over time, when you use a credit card, you pay full every single month. That's how over time you build your credit history. That's really how to call it. And the longer you do that, the better credit you get.
Mm-hmm. And as important this information would be, because it's looking at, for example, how much students are indebted in the United States, for example, and how much maybe foreigner coming to the country are quickly enticed into this credit market. At the end of the day, it becomes sort of difficult for you to come out of it, because then you have to work to pay those debts, and maybe sometimes you never finish to pay them.
Yeah.
You imagine that, okay, these are very vital and good information, and everybody should be taught in school, no?
Yeah.
But they are not taught in school. I don't understand why. Are the people not supposed to know about these things?
Believe me, if I had a magic wand to just fix that, I would have done it a long time ago. But unfortunately, the reality is, the more people are educated, the less some of those people can make money. Right? If I can put it that way, that's just truly the idea behind it. Because the more people know, of course, the better decision they'll make. So they won't be in those situations. So the people make money off of that won't make as much money. So it kind of there is an incentive there for people not to be educated, essentially. Right. So, and that's the reason why you don't see those programs in school, because it doesn't take anything to do that. It doesn't just see those programs in school. You don't see those. It's not taught anywhere. It's not part of a curriculum. Not in elementary school, not in high school, not in college. Nowhere. There's not even an elective that you can just decide, oh, let me go. No, you essentially, again, you just kind of on your own there to figure out what to do. Right? If you don't have maybe parents who know can teach you, right? Or if you don't, you don't know somebody really we can educate you on it. Most people are at loss, right? Most people just have to find that out on their own, and which is really why what we do as an organization is so important, because we understand that everybody deserves to have access to their knowledge, just like you said, because it's very vital information. And that's why we want as many people to get access to those information. So now, because everybody is intelligent to make the right decision once they have proper information, right? It's not, and I tell people the thing which is very basic, right? It's nothing complicated, because a lot of time people think, oh, maybe I need to be good in math. It has nothing to do with that. A lot of the concept we teach is very, very elementary for people, so anybody can really understand it.
All right. Now, the question this time no longer about how to build up credit, but how to build up knowledge about finance, because it's a it's a very vital information that's supposed to be disbursed to the people, but it's not going on like you, of course, have seen on. But then, how do we start to gather this knowledge? Because this is not there in the school, but it is there in the society. How do we begin to, because this is where it becomes very vital, and the role that you are playing with your organization. How should people begin to learn this information?
That's an excellent question. So the way we as an organization are, and the reason why we have a financial literacy campaign is because our movement is really a grassroots movement, right? And the beauty about what we do is we have campaigners all across really North America, which is US and Canada, and we're able to provide this knowledge several ways. So first, before the pandemic happened, let me go that pre-pandemic, we have over 300 financial centers all across the US and Canada when people can actually come and educate themselves. Right? That's actually the main way. But since the pandemic, what we started doing is a lot of what we do now is done virtually via Zoom, just like you and I are doing it. So we have literally classes happening Monday to Friday, twice a day, except for Wednesday, or every other day is twice a day, when people can come in and start learning. And we cover several topics of personal finance. So really, anybody can have that can have access to that information, and we really break it down to the point that, just like I mentioned earlier, where everybody can truly understand, right? And you have the opportunity to attend those class as many times as you need to, and because that's the foundation. Once you have knowledge, that's the first steps. Is really having the knowledge, and then the next steps really is now planning, because knowledge alone don't do you any good if you don't apply it, right? Just knowing things is one thing. Now applying what you know, implementing what you learn is the next step, right? And that's not the next step people need to take once they start learning. Oh, okay, this is what I should do. Let me start doing those things. And they have also access to professional. We can help them in that process, because I always tell people this is not even though yes you can do yourself, but it's not something you have to do by yourself, right? Because you have people who cannot help you, because that's the same thing that happened to me. Somebody actually, because one thing I've never done, I hadn't done before, was I never done something as having a budget or setting up some financial goals, right? And actually having a plan that was laid out for me, like, oh, this is how you can get to your goal. I didn't even know something that was happening before I became part of this organization. So, but now having the knowledge and now having a plan made it easier for me to start implementing that. Right, so that's some of the ways people can really help themselves.
You see, before, I told you that this is the third episode that I'm doing today, So the episode I had before yours was another Cameroonian who is in UK, She published a journal, no, actually a planner, which of course was a conversation of the episode, and I found it very interesting because we're talking about how to plan, how to organize your life, basically, you know. And this is not something that we are regularly used to in Africa. Of course, you can bear me witness to that, no. But here in the West, or let's put it this way, in this new economy that is based on service, that is sort of structured differently, it is very important that you begin to understand some of this terminology, you know, plan for yourself, financial, soft skills, and things like this. So I'm beginning to have a sort of a correlation here now between what we're talking about here and what we talked before. Only that this time we are looking at financial literacy, financial planning, and things like that. But at the end of the day, it is very important that we understand what we are doing, and we are taking a pivotal role in our life and try to acquire enough knowledge that we need to be able to run our life. So I really find that to be very interesting, you know. And coincidentally, she happened to be a Cameroonian. You also happen to be from Cameroon. And that is really very interesting.
Yeah, that's actually it is. And to even add to that, the reason why that's important, one of the at least analogy I like to use is we all have, especially nowadays, most people have smartphone, right? And if you have a smartphone, you have a lot of smartphones come with a GPS app, depending on which smartphone you have. And the way that if you look at a GPS app, for example, when you open a GPS app, usually nothing happens. It just kind of sits there. You see a dot or where you are, but really nothing has happened. But the moment you put an address, and the moment you say, okay, I want to go, put in the address of where you want to go, all of a sudden it's like magic happens. All of a sudden, the GPS is like, oh, okay, I can get you there this way or that way or that way. Right? So when you have a destination, now the GPS can map out a plan to go for you to go there, and it can give you several options. Like, oh, you can go there one way or this way or that way. This is the longest, shortest way, and this is the longest path. And another thing too that happened with the GPS is, if halfway there you have maybe a stop or you have to take a detour, the GPS can recalculate, be like, okay, now you're here. This is the way you can get there. So that's how a plan works, right? Because the plan is, okay, let me set a destination, which is my goal, and now let me put together a plan. And you can have different options. And then over time now, you can always revise because things can happen, right? Hey, maybe now you have start a family, or maybe you have a job change, or maybe whatever the case may be, maybe you get married. So all those things now become a detour that the plan has to be able to adjust. But you always have to start somewhere. You have to have a destination you're going after and have now that map planned for you. And it's very important because what that does you too, just like with the GPS, once you have a roadmap, it gives you a peace of mind. Okay, now I know where I'm going. Well, I'm not just driving to drive. I know, okay, this is how I'm going to get there. And give you confidence that, okay, I'm going to make it to my destination because I have a roadmap. So that's really what planning does for you, because it gives you the confidence to know that, yes, you might not be where you want to be, but you know, okay,
you're progressing there, yeah.
And I have a way to get there. Right? So that's really what's powerful about having a plan for you.
That's very interesting, and something that's important at this also, it should be taught everywhere, though, because I'm imagining that somebody who is running the society want everybody to be knowledgeable about the system, because the society, I always say, is a complex machine. We need to know how this machine works. In that, first of all, all of us are part of the machine. No? We are like the little boat and knot that make the machine work. If one of the boat is washed out, is having a problem, okay, maybe the machine can still keep on rolling and running and running, but that is a defect in the machine. No? But if somebody was in charge of this machine, it would have been good that all the bolt and nut of the machine is properly functioning so that it can be running properly. But maybe, like you were saying before, the more we have ignorant people in the society who do not understand how the system works, and the more some people are able to make more money. Maybe for this reason, there is need to keep a lot of people ignorance. No, maybe I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking aloud. All right, now. Another thing that I'm beginning to find very interesting, looking at the time that we live in today, is that we are in a transition now, a very interesting one. that the way the economy is used to function is completely is changing. For this reason, people also need to change from the way they used to be to how they are now, and compared to maybe where they want to be tomorrow. Like for example, a very simple one would be: we didn't think it was important to do all this planning before. No, you were in school in the post-industrial revolution educational system. The way it was set up is that you finish school, you go get a job. No, but in the way it is today now, you don't need to ask anybody for a job. You finish school. If you want to go that road, or you grow up, find something for yourself. Do something that can be useful to the society, and from there you earn your money. And if you look at that very carefully, you see that is how the society even functioned before the Industrial Revolution. Actually, that is how it functioned in Africa. No, in that you have something, you must have the equivalent cost of it. You need a car, yes, but do you have the equivalent cost of the car, which is the cash? If you don't have it, nobody's going to give you a car. So it means that if you know that you need a car, then do whatever you can to get the equivalent cost of the car, which is the cash. If you have it, then go get the car, you pay for it, you take your car home, you are not owing anybody, nobody's owing you. I think that is even very interesting as a system, no? But how do we transition now? Somebody that have that kind of mentality, maybe now you are in US, or maybe you are in Germany or in France or in UK or in Canada, you see that the system is run differently and you want to be part of that system. How do you transition in this, the mentality, the thinking? Because I think the whole thing is happening in the head also.
Yeah, that's a that's a good question. And one thing I'm actually thankful the guy that I grew up in the place I grew up, because those value stuck with me. Like I said, it's knowing that, hey, if I don't have the equivalent of something, let me not go get it. Right. So that always stuck with me. So even when I moved here, and yes, like I said, you have to transition, but that doesn't mean you have to lose your value, which is unfortunate. That's what happened to some people. When they come here, they feel like, oh, I just have to do the things the way people do here. You can still, once you understand the system, given a fairly easy example, we're talking earlier about credit card. Like I mentioned, to build your credit, you have to have some sort of either credit card or, so you need that. But what you also know is, hey, let's say I have it, because usually when they give you a limit. Okay, maybe your limit is 1,000 or 5,000. But you always know how much you have in your account. So for this example, if I know maybe I have 1,000 in my account, it doesn't matter what my limit is. Even my limit is 10,000. I know I'm not going to spend more than 1,000 because that's how much I have in my account to pay it back, all right, at the end of the month. Because they give you a time to, hey, once you pay it back, you don't have any interest. As long as you pay in full every single month, you're good. So really, if I don't have the equivalent of what I'm spending in cash, I'm not going to put more on my card than what I actually have as an equivalent. So it's still the same mindset of, hey, I have to have the cash for it before I can even use that card to do anything with it. Right. So even though, yes, I mean, we're all in the area where there's card that I can use to buy something even without having, quote unquote, without paying any cash. But at least I know, okay, if I don't have the cash for it, I'm not even going to go ahead and entertain the idea to buy it. And you mentioned, you're talking about cars. Same thing, yes. Are people going to wait until they get the full cash to go buy a car? Probably not. But I also know if I want to buy a car, that's where it goes back to what I mentioned, having a budget. I know, okay, I know how much I can easily afford on a monthly basis to pay for a car. So now, if I know, okay, maybe I can only afford $400. So that kind of where I want to stay with in terms of my quote unquote car note. I'm not going to go get a car that's going to cost me $1,000 a month, right? So that's also, again, that's another way to making sure that, yes, I have the cash to be able to take care of it. So I'm only going to stick with what I know I can afford. So that's really where it's important to, just like I said, having that budget so that whatever you do is still within what you can afford. But unfortunately, it's so easy because you can have anything. I mean, you can walk to a dealership and be like, yes, even though I can afford it, let me get this fancy car because it looks good. And all of a sudden now you find out you start struggling month to month to make your payment. So the mindset or what I grew up, the mindset I grew up with, like I said, having the cash pickup, that can still help you here because I'm still within, even though I'm not paying things cash, I still have to make sure I have what I need before I can even make use those cards. So you can still keep the two, kind of merge the two mindset, knowing that yes, we live in a different era. But I have to find a way to keep those value, because those value made sure that I never had a stress, right, about any of those things. So that's kind of a way for me to mix the two, if I can put it that way, at least on my from my standpoint, basically.
And I think maybe I'm wrong on it, but you can correct me if I am. That in this process, in this experiment, if you want to put it like that, that you are starting at the 0 point, then you need to go and test out make some experiment in your financial exercises. If you go wrong, then you get bad credit. If you go right, then you get good credit. That you will succeed in it better if you have an idea of what you are doing. Which make it logical now that people need to be educated financially, because if you don't know what you are doing, you might look at it like the example I was giving before, like a goat that they be giving a sugar. They give you a teaspoon of sugar. You say, very sweet. Give me more. Give me, because sugar is good in the mouth, though. That is the money. But if you don't understand that you are eating away all the money that you are supposed to use for, you might end up accumulating a lot of bad credit for yourself. But if on the other hand, like maybe for example, like your situation, when you are teaching people how to the financial knowledge, how to go about your finances. You already understand this. Maybe, for example, you have a business and you need money to be able to set up this business, and they give you a loan of say maybe $100,000, which you will invest, and you are able to then get a lot of money from it. Then you can become rich quicker, pay your bill, and you are still going to be running well. I want to refer back to what Robert Saki was saying, that credit is good. You need to use credit well, but make sure you use it for your favor instead of the other way around. But for you to be able to do that, you need to have financial literacy. You need to understand how it works. So this is why I don't understand why it is not taught. So because if it is that important, I don't get it. I don't get that part.
It is like I said, there's more power behind it than what you and I can figure out. But I get what you said is very poignant, because yes, what you don't know can hurt you. That's kind of one of the phrases we like to we use. Or what you don't know can hurt you in anything, any area, right? Especially when it comes to money, but in any area, what you don't know, ignorance. I don't know who came out with the idea of ignorance is bliss. I don't know where that came from, but there's really nothing good that comes out of being ignorant, right? Because you end up that's how you end up making mistake, because just the lack of knowledge, and what you don't know can definitely hurt you, especially when it comes to money, because before you realize it, you find yourself in a really bad situation. Now it takes you a lot of time and effort and discipline to be able to build yourself out of it, right? But the beauty is it's still possible. There's still a way out, right? And that's why we want to make sure people have access to that education to help themselves, because there's a huge, even now with the pandemic, that only made things worse for some people, because I don't know how it was there here. I mean, there's millions of people who either lost job or got furloughed or had an hour be cut off. So a lot of people found themselves in that situation, and because people don't have the plan, like I was telling you, they realize they don't have any emergency fund, right? They don't have another way to fall back on. So that's how they even create more and more debt, right? And it only makes, like I said, the situation even worse when something like that happens. When you all of a sudden, hey, there's no more income coming in, or you have to rely on the government, and you can only do that for so long, right? Because also relying on the government really takes away your freedom, because there's only so much you can do, right? Because you have to you constantly rely on that. So it is really a dynamic. But the beauty about it really is, because I don't want people to feel like this. only about. But the beauty about it, what I can really tell people is there's a way to educate yourself. There's a way for you to be able to better your understanding. And again, like I said earlier, it is something that anybody can understand. I mean, it's so basic that anybody, right? Because some of the people we help or we work with, I mean, they're all different backgrounds. I mean, some of them are just might be professional, might be business owner, but you have people, you have students, you have stay-at-home parents, you have people who didn't even go to, some people didn't even go to college, some people just still in the high school, but it's already learning and applying the things they learn. So, and they can understand the things we teach, because we focus just on the fundamentals, the fundamentals of how our money works. And once we do that, we realize now once everybody really understand it, then they can make those decisions for themselves. Right? And now they have the confidence of really knowing that, oh, okay. And the beauty about that too, you have to look at this way is once you know and you do it, then it's easier for you to pass that knowledge to someone else, pass that knowledge to your kids, or pass that knowledge to your grandkids, and so on and so forth. And that's how you build not just quote unquote generational wealth, but really generational knowledge, right? Because that gets passed down to the next generation, and so on and so forth. Right? And that's how you fast forward. You know, you're asking me earlier about generation. You fast forward 2-3 generations down the road. Now, that information, that knowledge becomes normal because everybody just passing out to the next generation, and now those good habits become just second nature, right? So that's very powerful about what we do.
I don't know if you want to tell me about your demography, the people that you serve. Are you mainly about the African diaspora, or is it just any person can be your client? And that one can sort of help me to understand the next question for you.
That's a very good question. So we have a diverse community. We serve anyone, right? One thing we like to use, the slogan we use is we help people who want to help themselves. So it doesn't matter of course, personally, I'm always more excited to help somebody from my community, right? Because I know the struggle that I had coming here and not being aware. So usually when I meet people who either they just came here from back home, I'm always eager to let them know about what I do, because I know the importance of it. Yes, you can come here, maybe you're still going to school, but sooner or later you need those skill set. So on the personal level, yes, I like to help my community, but what we do is open to anyone, because everybody needs it. And at the end of the day, the more people have this knowledge, the better we are. I heard you mention about being a society, being part of that system, right? So the more part of that system, the more those parts are working properly, the better it is for the entire machine, for the entire system to run. So yeah.
No. Why I was asking the question is because here we concentrate more on the African diaspora, no? And of course, Africa, where we are coming from, and this is because we have carried out a research where I'm living for the past years to understand the life of the people here. Why did we come here? At least for the past 40 years now. Why did we come here? What will be our experience with the local people, and what is the experience with the younger generation here? All these are very important. Even in our podcast, we also try to make sure we underline that when we interview people from other parts of the world, particularly in the West. We are trying to understand that line of our narration. And based also on that data, we found that what you are talking about today is highly, highly relevant to that community, in that people just come in, they don't understand how the system functions. Before you manage to figure out all this, it's already too late in most of the cases, no? Okay, I can understand. Sometimes it might not be too late, but sometimes it can actually be too late, no? In that if you don't understand that you need to build up the credit this way, and you just, I'm sorry to repeat this again, you just appear like that little goat that is being given the sugar. You say, it's sweet. You are asking for it. You don't understand the consequences of it yet. By the time you start paying the consequences, it becomes too late. But if you have been given the knowledge of what the society is going to demand from you, from that little sugar they are giving to you, then you will know how to ask for it. No? So that is why I was asking the question, because of the demography, the African diaspora, whether you are looking at even the United States or UK, the problem is the same. The community need a lot of knowledge about finance. I don't want to take it further than that, but it's actually very, very important. The African diaspora community need more of this knowledge. So, is there anything that can be done to reinforce that?
And that is, I mean, that's a very, very good point. And one thing I can just share with you in terms of what are some of the pitfalls I've seen for some of the people like myself now. The one thing is, I don't know about, I don't know how long you moved to Italy, but back home when we watch TV and we watch the, the West, or I'm just using the US for example. You're seeing, people, because you see, you discover through either movies or music video and so on and so forth. And so you watch people living in this lavish lifestyle and so on. So you, in your mind, you're thinking, okay, if I come here, that's the kind of lifestyle I will have. Right? And unfortunately, what I'm realizing is a lot of people come here, and that's what they're going after. And that's how, I mean, you see people maybe as soon as they get some sort of a career, all of a sudden they have this huge house, this fancy car, and so. And I mentioned how you can just finance anything, and that's how they fall into that trap of living way beyond their means, because they feel like, man, that's there's so much worry about the status, how people looked at them. Oh man, look at the car this person drives, look at the house they live, look at what, even though we know that's just things that they finance. They don't own any of that. The moment money starts coming in, the bank is going to come and take all of those things. But unfortunately, because there's this mindset of wanting to build yourself an image, right? That's where a lot of people fall off. And even that just people start a career. I've seen that happen even with the young. Now I've seen that happen more and more even with younger people. I remember when I was leaving and started my career, we had some younger people coming from Cameroon at the same place where I went to school. And some of them, I've seen them. I mean, there was so much focus on just the lifestyle here, I mean, the party here. Oh, I'm in the US, I can get to travel, do those things. And the main thing, like, hey, I came here for school, that wasn't the focus. Or I came here to start, that wasn't the focus. And just like you said, it took so many years for them to realize, oh, wow, I should have been focusing here. And for some of them was too late, just like you said, right? So that's one of the pitfalls I've seen for a lot of people in Diaspora is usually you can easily fall into the trap of wanting to quote unquote live the lifestyle, even though you know that's not what you're here for, even though you know you cannot even afford it, but because you want to keep this image, this status, or maybe you want people back home to think that, oh man, I'm living a good life here. Look at me. You start falling to those traps. That's actually one of the things I've not just on the personal level for some people in Diaspora. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, say maybe somebody is coming in from Africa, who of course become a diaspora at the point now. We all know our culture, where we are coming from, that the society need us in very many ways. They need our knowledge, need our experience here in the West for us to be able to also build our system, no? Because all of us, I repeat again, we're all part of the machine. We need to contribute in one way or the other, whether in terms of finance, in terms of knowledge, in terms of our experience, in terms of our influence. What I'm trying to say is that if we have good knowledge of how money works, and more African diaspora have more money in their disposal, they'll be able to build more projects at home, no? But that money, the money on their hands, the African diaspora that I'm talking about, a lot of financial institutions here in the West are interested in the money. They're also interested in that money. So the way they are going to get it is, if we don't play our role very well, then we just enter into this loop. Then we are not going to get anything out from it at the end of the day. And soon we grow old. When you are old, of course, you are no longer useful. Then you become a shaft. You can't be useful here, you can't be useful there. But if while you are growing up, you understand how the system works, then you can be more useful even here and more useful also there. Because it's about knowledge, you know. You said before that when you are ignorant, it's not going to serve you anything. But if you are knowledgeable, then you can be highly valuable, because knowledge is always what is important. Of course, yeah, knowledge is important, but the application of it is even more important now. So I'm actually driving at how do we make sure that this knowledge that we are talking about, this financial literacy, is shared among people, particularly those that are coming in from Africa to the Western country, so that they understand that the offer that is being given to them have consequences, and what this offer means, so that they can play safe, so that they will be able, really not play safe in the sense of not taking risk, in the sense of knowing what they are doing, so that they can be at an advantage, financially speaking.
Yeah, that's actually the heart of our financial literacy campaign. Is really what you said, is how do we make sure that, just like I said, when people come here, as much as they want to maybe go to school or start, okay, at least they have that knowledge, they have access, really, that's really the word, access to that knowledge right away. So when those opportunities will come, or when those things are presented to them, they know that, hey, this is the consequence, or this is the outcome, where this is what might lead me. And also what you said is, once you have that stability as well, you can be more useful to, like I said, to the society, right? You can be more useful to, because we know, even here, we have people we take care of, or back home, and you can be more productive there as well, if you're able to being productive here. But now, in terms of the access, really what I was like, oh, okay, now because look at my video first for a little bit. But what I would say in terms of really access is be able to, in terms of school, because one thing we do, and I was going to show that a little bit later when I start sharing my screen, is we're able to take this financial literacy campaign in several places, right? Because we've been to some university, we've been to some high school, we've been to some local communities. So our role is to be able to make this really go mainstream, if I can put it that way. So everybody knows there's a place for me to go and learn. There's a place for me to go and have the knowledge. And the beauty about it is we provide that knowledge at no cost to people. So they don't have to worry about, hey, I need to spend this much to be able to get the knowledge. You can be able to get that knowledge really at no cost to you. And that's really the heart of our movement, is really to make sure that every single individual, especially like we're talking about people from the Diaspora, know that, hey, yes, I'm coming here to get a better lifestyle, yes, but before I even get to that point, I need to make sure I have an understanding of how things go. Just like you do, I tell people, just like you do anything else. If I buy a new car, I get a new equipment, and before I use it, I really first need to understand, how does this work? Because once I understand how it works, I can use it more effectively. Once you understand how much, you can now use the system to your advantage. You use the example of, hey, if I want to start a business, yes, I might borrow some money, but I know I'm using that to start something that will generate revenue and help me, right? So that's the idea here, is once you understand the system, how the system works, now you can take advantage of that for yourself. That's really the key there, is once you understand and you start applying it, you realize that, oh, okay, I can still use the same institution. I can use them to work to my benefit, to work to my good. And then now, when I get to that point, now we can also help even more people. You mentioned about doing some project back home, and I'd say especially during, like you mentioned, COVID. So many, and unfortunately, there's really not even though here, the track system a little bit, there's really not a true way to understand the impact of that COVID in most places in Africa, because they don't have yet a reliable system to really track how many people are affected, how many people are, and so on and so forth. But we all know this, it is something that actually had a huge impact there, and be able to be in a situation when that happened, you can actually offer a hand and be able to help. That's very important.
Before you share some of the information with us, I'm trying to understand how can people engage with you. I mean, how do you share your knowledge with the people? Is it in form of school, a free training program, a webinar? How do you share the knowledge with the people?
Good. Like I said before, I even share my screen. So we have classes, like I said, that we provide. They are today, most of them are virtually. So just like is a on form of webinar, if I can call it that way. We call it virtual workshop, but webinar it works as well, where people can now come in and be part of it and learn. And like I said, we do that every day, twice. Monday to Friday, twice a day, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. and everybody can. And it's not just me. We have a huge community of over 78,000 people. They're part of our campaign all across North America, and any of them can give them access to that knowledge. But once I share my screen, I want to because I really the point I ultimately want to make is to make people understand that this is something that everybody can do it. Because a lot of times people looked at it, and I did that myself. I used to think, man, it takes a special person to understand this, right? It takes some special knowledge or prerequisite to be able to understand that. But literally anybody can do it, right? And the reason why I emphasize on that is just to encourage people that you can actually, doesn't matter the situation you are today, you can improve on that. Right? You just need the knowledge and need the application of that knowledge to really be able to set yourself, because there's a huge, and I know how it is in Europe. Here in the US, we call it the great resignation. One of the things that also happened during COVID is a lot of people start realizing that, you know what, maybe what I'm doing here, I've been working here for so many years, I really don't see the value of what I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of people, resigning from their job. People want more flexibility. People want to be able to work from home. Right? They got the taste of working from home. They're like, man, you know what? I actually like this these settings, right? People want to be more flexible. They want to spend more time with family. But the beauty about it is, if you are financially secure, you can do that. You can have that flexibility. If you set yourself up properly, you can have those options for yourself. So that's really where all that can even help you. And I know, like I said, I don't know that you guys had the same thing happening there, but here there's a lot of people resigning from their work, right? Because either they don't like the condition anymore, they don't want to take it anymore, they want something different, something that's more valuable for them, but they might not be afford to do it, right? So having that knowledge, like you said, can even over time you can build yourself to a point where you can maybe retire early. I know a lot of people talk about, there's another movement that's very popular nowadays, retire early, right? Once you have knowledge, you can plan to do that, right? So those are some of the things that can really help make a difference. But I don't know if I'm able to.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to habilitate it. I think only host. See if it's possible for you now.
Okay, give me 1 second here, and I'll test it in.
You see the possibility there?
Okay, yes, I'm able to. Also.
Okay. All right. So go ahead when you want.
Yeah. So this, first of all, this is actually to show. I want people to actually first see what is actually happening, because it's not talked about as much, but it's it talks about the income gap that is really widening. And this is just here in the US, but I'm pretty sure this is happening everywhere. Because see, for example, here in the US, if you look at the bottom 90%, right? First of all, you look at the bottom 50%, you look at that's the purple line there, you can barely see that at the bottom. So that's how much of what they're controlling. But now, even if you look at the bottom 90%, I talk about 90% of the population, they still have a smaller portion of the overall wealth. So really the top 10% are really controlling most of the wealth. So our purpose here is, how do we change this? How do we help that bottom 50 move up, or that bottom 90 to be able to take a bigger part of that pie? And it's really truly based on understanding, because most of these people, it's not that they don't have the income, right? It's not that they don't have the will to be able to. It's just because most of them don't have the knowledge. So what that does is I would tell people, hey, you can be quote unquote we call it the millionaire next door, right? Because many of those people are not celebrity or fancy people or inherit just money. The key here is the people what we call millionaire next door, just average normal people, but who have built their financial future with knowledge, which I was mentioning earlier. But the key there is also planning and consistent practice over a long period of time. So if you have those things put together, you can now really build something sustainable for you. So what do you say here? What do rich people know that poor people don't know? And it's not even so much rich or poor, but the key here I mentioned to you earlier is it's just a succession of bad decisions. It says here, hey, most people don't have a budget, right? They don't have goals, as mentioned earlier, for their retirement, for education, for healthcare. They have expensive taste, right? They want to buy the brand new car, the big car. They live with credit card and debt and liability, and as a large portion of their income going to just interest, right? They don't prepare for emergencies, and they work for a living, and they don't have a good knowledge, and often not even, some they're not even interested in financial matters. But that's another thing you have to think about. Some of them are not even interested in it, and so on and so forth. But the difference is, we talk about times have to change. There's a time for things to change. But this is what we believe in. Why we believe in financial education. We believe in every single one of us control our future. Our future is our own, and it's not the hand of an employer or a union or a government or a hand of a banker or a broker. It's really in our own hand. So as we make money, what we need to learn is first how to save, right? How to accumulate money, but more importantly, how to protect also the things that we are built. So that's part of what we actually share with people. And this is very, very powerful, because once you're financially educated, what you can become now is, we call it, become your own money manager, because now you have the knowledge and the resource to be able to do that. And then knowing less can cost you more, just like I mentioned earlier, is that can cost you. Not knowing can actually cost you a lot more. But then by you understanding how money works, you're able to now make money work for you. And I heard you mention earlier Robert Kiyosaki. You have to make money now work for you, not the other way around. Not just you working for money. And this is the part that's very powerful. Is now, how do you build wealth? It says that you cannot build wealth until you build a solid foundation. If you think about building a house, the foundation is the most important part of that house, because the stronger the foundation is, the better, the longer the house can withstand. Because there's going to be, I was telling you earlier about, we have hurricane and so on and so forth. There's going to be, those things will happen over time. But if you have a solid foundation, you can really withstand all of that, right? You can withstand all of those things. And what does that mean? First, we actually have a layer. There's 4 basically key layer here. Proper protection is your first layer. That's the foundation. And then debt management is 1, and then emergency fund, and then investment. So that's kind of how you put those layers one on top of each other. And it's just like building a house. You started from the ground up, right? So, and what I always tell people as well is, once you build wealth, it has to be based on time-tested principle. It's not based on, hey, I heard this guy, did this one thing and the next money was rich. That's not how it works. You have to build something that's been tested over time and proven that this works. This has worked for millions and thousands of people. So it can also work for you. Right? So, and that would now move you to the point where you might be financially insecure when you start the process, but over time you become more secure, and then you can even become financially independent. Right? That's the key there, is you can get to those proper. But I want to go a little bit more in detail, and later on, if you have some questions, please feel free. But I want to go in detail of every single one of those layers, what that represents, and why do we even build what that way. So what we build is from a place that you might be insecure to get it on way to independence. So first thing, the most important thing, and people don't always think about that, to build wealth, is you have to protect the most valuable asset, which is your income. Because without income, there's really nothing you can do, right? Without income, you can save. Without income, you can take care of your bills. Without income, you can help. So you have to protect that income. You have to protect your income, and then protect your health, right? Because if you're not healthy enough to go and produce, and actually, there's no way you can generate income and protect your assets. So those are the things you first want to make sure you protect, right? Protect your income, your health, and your assets. So that's the first thing, because as long as you have the income coming in and you protect your health, is in good health, you can keep producing income and can still building assets. And then next thing is, if you have any liability, you have to have a plan to manage and become debt free. Why? Because the less you owe, the more you can keep what you bring home. The more of that income that you bring home, you can keep that, because you don't have as much liability. And we have a step-by-step process we kind of go through. So that's the second step. And then we kind of have a roadmap. Actually have a workshop that covers even this topic on how to, we call it debt wealth, how to speed up the process of getting out of debt. It's a full roadmap. I'll definitely encourage people to go there. Essentially, what we teach people is how to start from the lowest balance to the higher balance. We have a roll-up strategy that people can eliminate debt and be out of debt even sooner. So in this example, you see someone who normally has a mortgage, has a bank loan, has a car, maybe have some credit card, maybe has some furniture he purchased. But by lining all of this assets, you see that, okay, he would normally, if you're just making his normal payment, would take him about 360 months, basically about 30 years to be able to pay everything up. But by utilizing this strategy and using that debt roll-up strategy, by focusing on the smaller debt balance and just rolling up over, you're able to cut back. So by adding that extra $100 and using this strategy, able to cut back debt from 30 years to about 17 and a half years. So be able to free up about almost 13 years that you can focus now on building. And that's just for the extra $100. So very powerful concept that we teach. And then building up an emergencies, right? 3 to 6 months of your income to prepare with, hey, if you lose a job, if you need some major appliance repair, or maybe you have like here, you have hurricane, all of a sudden you need to move out and you need to come and maybe fix something or the car breakdown. How do you take up those things without all of a sudden that being a huge burden on your family? And last but not least, now you can think about now investing for the long term, learning how to save and invest so you cannot build a significant nest egg. So the moment you can, if you want to retire early, you can do that. If you want to retire with dignity, and then we show you just with a little bit you can do, right, can over time can really build you a significant amount of assets, right? So it says, just an easy example, I say you have an income of 60,000, which is very doable here in the US. Most people, and they set aside 10% of that. That's about $500 a month, $17 a day for 30 years. So the moment you start having an income, you can do that. And most people start working in their 20s, and maybe they work into their 50s or 60s. So 30 years is a very average number of years. But having the right return, knowing that where you actually put the money, that gives you about $747,000 by the time you maybe 60 in 30 years. But then if you have maybe a lot of a higher return, so that's about 1.3 million. So by just doing smaller things over a period of time and be consistent, you can actually build yourself a significant amount. And that's the average person. So I'm not even talking about people who have, even a significant amount of income. Just doing the small change, right, can make a big difference over time. And then at 60, let's say you even start working there and just let the money now just grow, just compounding interest. So by 67, depending on how much you're earning, you can actually now become financially independent, and that's by you just having an average income, a decent income, but just making smaller decisions over time, that makes a huge difference. So that's really why what I said that I believe that anybody can do it is really because we have something that's proven. And our workshop as well is something that's available. Another thing to understanding taxes, because a big part of what we do is understanding, okay, how does tax going to impact my savings, right? So understanding where you put your money, right? How is that going to be taxed? Are you going to pay tax every year? Are you going to defer your tax and pay later? Or are you going to pay the tax today and access your money tax-free? So depending again on where you put your money, are you paying too much? And we have some books to be able to show that. Even when it comes to now college education, if you have kids, how do you now start planning for those things as well? So with our classes, and I wanted to share here is because I know you were asking about how people can have access. So this is our calendar. So we have a calendar for every single month. Beginning of the month, we come out with our calendar. So Monday to Friday, twice a day, except for Wednesday, twice a day, we have about 6 different sessions, right? 6 different topics that we cover. And not only that, we even have material. So we have a workbook that people can actually even get, right, for themselves. And we have another one of our proprietary book that kind of teach some of those basic principles. So the workbook is for the classes. Just like in the class, you'll be sitting at home taking notes. There's a Zoom, you can ask questions, and so on and so forth, and you can attend those classes. So Monday to Friday, as many times you want to, you can come there and learn. So we talk about building savings and wealth, increasing cash flow and manage debt, preparing with power protection, your health and your wealth, understanding asset accumulation strategy, and fulfilling your long-term goal. So those are the different classes we go over and over and over. And we've been to so many places with this workshop. So just to make sure that people have that understanding of money, and the key here is to know that all of us can do it, right? Especially people in diaspora. One thing I know about us is we are very smart. We are smart people, so can really understand this concept very easily, right? And it doesn't require even that much brain power, but you can actually understand these things and be able not to apply them. And even if you have, just say, as long as you have the discipline, the consistency, and make those small decisions, I mean, you can just completely change yourself and your family situation. And now you can be more of an asset for your family back home. I mean, I heard you mention about doing project and so on and so forth. When you're in that situation, you cannot be even more of an asset to others, because not only you can empower them with your resource, but really also empower them with your knowledge. Because you can teach someone else, man, this is what I did. Oh, come to this class, come and learn. This has been able to help me. You can share your testimony as well and see that this can work for them as well.
All right. Now, I'm trying to think if there is any possibility that you can also collaborate with people that might not necessarily be inside the United States territory. Is that a possibility?
I love the question. I love the question. And this is why this is so powerful. You're right. I mentioned that we work in the US and Canada. However, I even had some of my family back home. I share some of this information with them already, because the concept or the principle of money applies everywhere. Money works the exact same way. Compound interest is the same way in the US and in Europe and Africa is the same way, right? The ability, the discipline of saving is the same way everywhere. And that's also why it's important. Once you build something that's based on sound, time-tested principle, it works everywhere, right? It's just like you see, for just an example, we're talking about cars. Toyota can decide to manufacture the car in the US or in Mexico or in Europe or in Asia, because they have a system of how they do it. It doesn't matter where they do it, it works, it always works. So same thing here, we can definitely collaborate if people want to, and I will share my information also with you. If people want to learn, it doesn't matter where they are, it's going to work for them as well. That much I can guarantee you. If you, doesn't matter where you are, the institution you use will be different because it's different, but the principle and the understanding works everywhere.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. I get the fact of the strategy, no? Yeah, that the strategy can work everywhere. Yeah, that I can guarantee. Maybe if you were referring to maybe a European country try to apply the same system that you have there in US, but in Africa, how is it going to be able to work? I want you to spend some time there, because now, say maybe you want to go to the bank and get money to finance a project, or maybe buy a car. You don't have the money, but they give you to, I want you to explain how that is actually feasible in Africa.
That's a very good question. So let's say you want to now, let's say you want to build, because we're talking about building wealth. When we talk about the protection, the things you need there, even in Africa, I know that because, like I said, I have family there. You can go to either some banking or some insurance that can give you different solutions to do that. Let's say you want to save for so now one thing that's different back home compared to at least in Cameroon is people here still have what they call a pension, meaning if you work for a certain number of time, after you retire, the government can send you a pension. But if you want to do your own, all you have to do is same thing I was showing the concept. If you start putting some money away, the one thing that's good there is even bank there locally can give you a better return than even here in the US. So you can get better return on your money just going there. So as long as you start create that discipline of, okay, I'm going to start putting a little bit away, right? Because the example I was using, I showed 10%, right? You can do 10, if you can do more, that's even better. But even if you just do that and you go to your local bank there, they have a long-term savings account there. You start putting those funds there, you can do that as well. And another thing I also see a lot back home, a lot of people doing back home is in real estate project. I know that's one thing that still works very well there as well. But the key here is knowing that, okay, I'm going to take a portion of what I bring home and I leverage that and put in a place where it's going to start working for me. But because I do that consistently, right, now over time, over a long period of time, that can now accumulate to a significant amount. So that's the concept. But now the key there is you just have to go to, usually what I ask people to go to different institutions and see what they have available, what the different savings are, a long-term savings plan they have available to you, and just look at the return. The key here is just the rate of return. The higher rate of return will be better for you. So now you can, if that helps you compare and see, oh, which one will be better for me for what I'm looking for, and that's how you'll be able to build that, right? So just understanding that whether I bring home a portion of that, I want to keep it. I want to use a portion of that to now work for me. So that's the way you'll be able to do that even back home, right? Because I was talking to a couple months ago, I talked to my sister. I was telling her, hey, no, yeah, you can do that too. Now the challenge there is just that and you know that just the income is not that speaking. That's one of the challenge there is maybe people's income is not as much. Then that's where, like I heard you say, you want to not find a way to increase that income. Maybe it's through having a side hustle. I heard you mention, hey, maybe you can start something for yourself, right? And that can bring you an extra income as well. So that would be now the difference is how you bring that extra income to be able to apply those principles.
All right. Well, I don't know how much guarantee we do have there in Africa banking system for long-time investment, looking at how porous the interest, the inflation rate is in money. So that I cannot say. Maybe you know that better than me.
That part too. That's about why I wouldn't, and that's why I said that's the only difference is I wouldn't know what what kind of return there will be based on the institution. That's the part I'm not familiar with at that point. That's why I was saying the principle is the same, but the difference might just be, like I said, what type of return are you going to get? But one thing I know, at least in back home, is one thing I've seen, even some of my friends that do is like saying real estate, because real estate apparently appreciate a lot faster there than here. So be able to purchase or either resell or purchase and build. I know some people also they will build like apartment complex. I know that's another thing that's also going there as well. Those are other ways that can bring you some of that passive income that you can use to build with. So those are just some other things people can do. But the idea of be able to keep a portion of what you make, that should be able to work there. Yeah, that's the only thing. I agree with you. The only thing is just know what kind of return are you going to get from the banking institution, and that part I'm not familiar with.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, absolutely. It is important. The knowledge, it can be applied anywhere. No, I remember the book I want to read. No, The Richest Man in Babylon. Those advice are really. If that book were to be read in a million years from now, it's still going to be valid because the human society, it is basically about the human psychology, how we function, the accumulation of wealth, and it's the same. It's true in US. It's true in Canada. It's true in Nigeria. It's true everywhere. No, it's only some little nitty-gritty of how the banking might work that might a little bit different. But at the end of the day, okay, gold, silver, accumulation, those one will never change. The logic, the idea will always remain the same. No, it will always appreciate. No, if you are not just banking only on the paper money, if you have anything really solid that can withstand the test of time, it will always appreciate. All right. Thank you so much for that, my brother. So I don't know if you want to add anything to conclude the conversation because you really have been very rich.
Just for your audience will be the my contact information in case people want to reach out and they want to like I said, reach out to me. So that's one thing they can do. Let me see. Let me do this. I'm just going to share that for a little bit here. So that's my name. They'll have all my information there. In case they had any question, they want to learn a little bit more about how we can help them. Maybe they want to access the workshop I was talking about, they can definitely should feel free to reach out to me. We're more than happy, more than glad to help them. Especially, like I was saying earlier, especially people from the diaspora are always, because I know someone had to help me. So I'm always open to extend that helping hand to others. And the other thing too is just reemphasize and I also put in the link there my LinkedIn profile in case they want to connect with me there. But the last thing I want to just share is it's gonna sound redundant, but really we can all do it. Right? It's nothing of what we share here is out of the ordinary. It doesn't take any special skills to get that. We can all learn, we can all understand, we can all plan, we can all better our, and that's ultimately the reason why we come here. Right? The reason why we leave our family, we go thousands of miles away is because we want to actually better our lifestyle and be able to give help also other people as well, put other people with us. That's the ultimate reason why we do that. Otherwise, man, I'll be back home now eating some fried fish and some things, right? So those are the reasons why we make all those sacrifices, right? To come here and bow to all the challenges we face here every single day, especially being in in a different country and so on and so forth. We do that because we definitely will ultimately want to help ourselves, right? And I always want to let's make sure we actually get a chance to do that, right? And doesn't matter in different area. I know today we're talking about finance, but in any area we can improve and pass down that knowledge to others. That's the way we can really ultimately be able to make a difference for. I mean, I like to use the example for the machine, right? To improve that system, improve the machine. All the parts have to be working on an optimal level, right? To be able to, and they have to be work efficiently, so the overall machine can now can run properly.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure on my part.
I thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here and inviting me.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.